In light of what is happening right now as we speak, it's very likely this man, Bill Gates, is fulfilling this ancient prophecy that was given over 2,000 years ago. The man is invested in a worldwide project to darken the sun. Some articles say block the sun, dim the sun. Nah, man, whatever you want to call it, that's way too close for comfort. It's the same thing. He wants to darken the sun.
Bill Gates thinks of himself as God, in control of the solar system. And that's why Bill Gates is now backing something called sun-dimming technology that would reflect sunlight out of the Earth's atmosphere, causing global cooling.
Bill Gates is backing the first high-altitude experiment of one radical climate change solution, creating a massive chemical cloud that could cool the Earth. It's called solar geoengineering, and it's highly controversial. It would look something like this. Thousands of planes would fly very high and use nozzles to inject millions of tons of light-reflecting particles into the stratosphere. It would create a thin chemical cloud of those particles around the whole planet, blocking some sunlight from reaching the surface.
There was a time, shortly before the death and resurrection of Jesus Christ, that he was asked a very specific question, and he responded with a very specific sequence of answers. It's in Matthew chapter 24, where the Lord pretty much blitzed through a long prophetic list of things he said would happen prior to his second coming. So the question they privately asked Jesus was about the end of the world. Matthew chapter 24, verse 3. Now as he, Jesus, sat on the Mount of Olives, the disciples came to him privately, saying, "Tell us, when will these things be? And what will be the sign of your coming and of the end of the age?" Now, some Bible translations say end of the world, which in essence is the same thing, but the word usage end of age implies a lot more. This English word age translates from the Greek word eon, which would include all worlds and not just Earth. So it's really like they were trying to ask him, when was the whole universe coming to an end? The Earth, about the sun, the stars, everything. This was an astronomical inquiry. They wanted to know when everything was going to end. Christ knows everything, and his closest disciples knew this. So he revealed things to them that he didn't immediately always tell everybody else. So him talking about the end of the world here wasn't initially a sermon like when he preached to the crowds. He was talking to them one-on-one, like a friend. I mean, imagine Jesus actually trying to explain to them GPS satellites, jets, and geoengineering concepts. Christ understood it before it was invented, but they wouldn't get it. So he answers and starts naming things that would happen on earth. False prophets, earthquakes, and wars, abomination. But then he hits them with something that just seemed totally unfathomable. I'm talking, even to me, a 21st century believer, it always sounded like some sci-fi, extreme crazy symbolism or something, until this year. Matthew chapter 24, verse 29, he then says, "Immediately after the tribulation of those days, the sun will be darkened and the moon will not give its light. The stars will fall from heaven and the powers of the heavens will be shaken." And now, you got to keep in mind, Jesus didn't speak English. He most likely spoke Aramaic. So he wouldn't have said star, he would have said kokab, which is the Aramaic word for aster. And aster is the Greek word for star or asteroid. We get that part, that's imaginable. But what about the sun being darkened and the moon not giving its light?
Now, just to restate, Bill Gates is not God. Bill Gates is some kind of weird, socially awkward rich guy who lives in Seattle. He doesn't own the planet, but he's now changing the planet single-handedly. This is not just over his yard in Seattle. This is over your yard and our oceans and the whole planet.
And there's never been an attempt like this since the beginning of the world. I mean, you want to pay real close attention when you start frequently hearing the terminology, "this has never been done before." And especially in reference to things that have a direct physical impact on your temple of God, your body. This is the same man who said with his own mouth, he doesn't think you should have an option to be vaccinated or not.
But you don't have a choice. People act like you have a choice. People don't feel like going to the stadium when they might get infected. Normalcy only returns when we've largely vaccinated the entire global population.
Pharmacy is sorcery and witchcraft.
But in my experience, innovation can do magical things.
And these are the things that Bill Gates is the most interested in investing in. He partners with the world's most elite scientists.
Please welcome to the stage Bill Gates.
He is the fourth richest person on Earth. Now Bill Gates is trying to save the planet.
And most of them are modern day prophets of Baal. They gain profits for Baal. They love the money and they'll do whatever it takes to get rich and stay rich. Now, I mean, he may have good intentions.
But good intentions can lead to some very bad things. The amount of hubris and arrogance involved here.
You know, and possibly even be ignorant to this sort of biblical truth. But it's true. It's witchcraft. And that's what he's suggesting and supporting. All right. And now he wants to tamper with God's son. Okay, so now you might wonder, what about the moon? This passage talks about the sun, the moon, and the stars. So if you dim the sun, you directly affect and darken the moon too. Now, if a scientist can discover this through scientific theory process, and calculations, and collecting data, then I'm positive the Lord Jesus already knew this, considering nothing was made without him. It's interesting to me how silent these geoengineers are on this fact that if you start tampering with the sun, then you're tampering with the moon also. So that's it. Do you think the Lord Jesus Christ was referring to solar geoengineering?